I'm Jumbo. This is Ruth Kamau, and welcome to Wasafiri Africa, where we celebrate Africa and things African. Sometimes known as Rylands Estate, Rylands is a well-established sub-area in Athlone, a suburb in Cape Town, located in the Cape Flats. Historically a hotbed of anti-apartheid protests, memorials include that of two ANC activists, Robert Waterwich and Colleen Williams, who died in an explosion outside the Athlone Court on 23 July 1989. Although the Cape Flats has generally been depicted as existing on the fringe of the city, the residents of Rylands have transformed their physical surroundings to build a thriving community. Twendeni, Africa is ready. Ajay Lalu was born into a tight-knit community which, besides his nuclear family, included aunts, uncles and cousins, all who lived in the same house. His earliest memories include bonding over shared dishes at mealtime, fragrant with robust conversation, as well as being acutely aware of the injustices of apartheid. But for Ajay Lalu, a singular memory rises above the rest. The day he discovered that his film with precious footage of a school trip to the Kruger National Park had been overexposed and all images lost. Yet the lessons learned from this experience have gone on to craft the diligent, exacting personality that has put Ajay Lalu at the forefront of AI engineering in Africa, helped shape his sharp business mind, and honed his first love, photography, to perfection. In all this, Ajay Lalu enjoys being a social entrepreneur. His involvement in the Makwande Trust, Shoot for Purpose, and the launch of A Mountain Divides, his coffee table book containing lavish, colorful images of the Kaapse Kloopse, will drive our conversation today. So come along for this good news story of lives changing for the better with Ajay Lalu. Namaste, Ajay.
Namaste, Ruth.
Look, you know what? It's been an interesting day today because we almost didn't have this conversation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I managed to give you the right day, the wrong date. And so I'm so grateful that you had a flexible afternoon so we could have this conversation. And it's hot out there.
Absolutely, it's scorching today.
It's a scorcher, right? So how do you say it's hot today in Gujarati?
Ajay બહુ ગરમી છે.
Hey?
Ajay બહુ ગરમી છે.
Ajay bor garmi che.
Yes.
Okay. Ajay bor garmi che. I always like learning these little things because, like with Isit Kosa, I've learned to say kushushu namshlanje. Yeah, and in my language I would say omodekwe no rugari. You know, and so on it goes, and it feels like a polyglot, you know.
Absolutely.
You can just have a little bit of fun like that, and I think that just makes life a little bit more interesting. So I'm really happy to have you here today because I would not say it was a coincidence. I don't believe in those things anymore. I was invited to the Social Justice Awards Gala dinner by a friend, and the email just popped into my box, and I was like, yes, I love anything to do with social justice. I'm there. And then to get there and to find out that it was going to be the day that I get to meet you. Quite interestingly, because you were talking about how your trust is Makwande Trust is involved with social justice, and we'll get to that. But from that, we hit off, and here you are today. Thank you.
And we have my brother in common.
And we have Primesh in common. That's right. I know. I kind of squealed when you said that, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I suddenly noticed all eyes were on me, but it was because it was like, how does this even happen? How does this even happen? It's too wonderful for words. Like your brother, you have very many layers. So you do. And they're all wonderful and fantastic. I'd like you to tell me just a little bit about your day jobs, because you said you have 2 day jobs. And what are they?
So I founded a company called Blacklight Consulting,
Right.
which is in the space of advising large corporates, multinationals, and listed companies, smaller entities, on broad-based Black economic empowerment. And I've been at the forefront of BEE since its inception. And at some point, one becomes bored. And having had the privilege and the honor of engaging with Richard Branson, who said to me, when you're not having fun, find something else to do.
Wow.
And I then ended up doing exactly that. Fortunately, I have a business partner that allows me the flexibility and the freedom to go and chase my wildest dreams, which ended up being a technology startup called QHop, which is in the autonomous retail checkout space. And it's technology that is home built in South Africa that is so advanced that we signed a global strategic alliance agreement with Microsoft Corporation in the USA in 2021. We won Brand South Africa Innovator of the Year. We're at the forefront of sort of AI and AI development on the continent. And, I think, it speaks testimony to the levels of innovation coming out of South Africa and the continent as a whole. I do believe that we don't give ourselves enough credit. Having been to Silicon Valley and having been through an accelerated program, one of the top 10 accelerated programs in Silicon Valley, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there's nothing special in the air or in the water in Silicon Valley, that we can hold our own amongst the best in the world, if you ask me. The fact that, we built something through COVID, hard lockdown, with the kind of skill sets that we have in our country, and, with the challenges of load shedding and so forth, and something which is really world class, I think speaks volumes about our tenacity, our perseverance, and, things that I think are baked in our DNA, that we never give up, that we will find a way of solving real problems that we face every day. And these problems are, by the way, in many instances, universal.
Yes.
And so, I do believe that we have this ability to overcome simply because of where we are, where we find ourselves. We find ourselves in a continent which is plagued by contradictions. Right? It's plagued with challenges. And I think all these challenges provide opportunities. I think young people are looking for ways of solving some of the world's biggest challenges.
I think it keeps them engaged, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? Because, like you said, you got bored what you were doing. And so if the young people look around and say, oh, that's been done, that's what will excite them, is being in an environment which is constantly asking for something to be done.
And to change things, right?
Yes.
For the better.
Yes.
And I think there's an approach from Africa which is different to the rest of the world.
How so?
In that we tend to solve problems collectively as opposed to individually.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's what, I think it was my very first speaker who said that we work like a village. We come together and it's collaborative.
Absolutely.
And so it's not apex model.
No. And I think that's different. I think if you look at most of the other large technology companies and even some of the smaller tech companies that I was engaging with,
Right.
there's a founder or co-founder model, right? And actually what we found was it was a collaboration between 3 different companies which had expertise in 3 different fields. And pulling these companies together and creating a solution was, the best that one could actually way of solving very complex problems. Without me having to know how payments or digital payments work, I could pull in a digital payment platform into our solution. Without understanding how the hardware components of building an IoT scale and integrating it with the touch screen and so forth, that's somebody else's forte, right?
Right, right.
But we've now designed and developed something which is a combination of various technologies and integrating it all in a way that works seamlessly together. So it's software, hardware, it's AI, all working together, which is phenomenal. I mean, I think that's what differentiates us. And I think we must never shy away from being proud of collectively solving problems rather than trying to individually gain, notoriety or,
I'm a self-made.
No, actually I'm not. I'm made by all the people that supported me and surrounded me.
And that's the truth of it. Ajay, you just have to come back. You have to come back because I think the question of, or not the question, but just for me to talk about AI, I find it so exciting. I really want to learn about that. And now when you say, there's some platforms which are now stating things like, would you like to meet with me or with my AI twin? I'm like, sorry?
I definitely want to meet with you.
I want to meet with you, Mr. Flesh and Blood, Miss Flesh and Blood, There's a movie I can never get out of my head, I, Robot. Have you ever watched it?
Yes, I have watched it.
I think if I don't confuse it, because I'm notorious for that, there's a part where the robot winks because he's learned the trick that human beings, when they want to say, I'm doing something, they wink. And I thought that was super eerie. I've kind of never forgotten that. But anyway, you need to come back because this whole question of artificial intelligence is so front and center with everybody now that it's just part of our life. There's some people who are so excited because with ChatGPT, they can write decent, whatever it is they want to write now. With Copilot, it's so much faster to take down minutes and whatever, edit documents. But then there's also the other side of how much are we giving up in our ability to think, our ability to solve problems, in our ability to understand that there's a certain loss of privacy. So it's a whole different thing. And you're the man to talk to because you're at the forefront of it. You kind of full disclosure right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll be happy to come back to
Thank you. Because today, hot on the heels of a trip you just made, which we shall talk about later, we are looking at the wonderful work that you do with focusing on women and youth, right? And how everything that you're doing on that side of you, I guess maybe it's the philanthropic side, maybe it's the social justice side, maybe it's the corporate responsibility side, they all come into these little pots that Ajay mixes and makes a really good curry out of. But I would like to talk about that today because I think that once again, with the concepts of the village, that collaborative effort is what is going to make our community sustainable and enjoyable to live in. And that means that we have to honor and celebrate people who are doing these things. So if we start with Makwande Trust, how did that come about?
It's almost 5 or 6, 7 years actually now. I was approached by the former corporate affairs director, Bridget Blackburn.
Okay.
She was at Distel at the time.
Okay.
And they were looking for an independent trustee for the Distel Development Trust.
Okay.
And I looked at it, I looked at what they were doing, I looked at the kind of impact that they were having, and thought, well, this looks interesting, I think this is something that I think I would add significant value to.
Right.
And it's been a phenomenal journey, in that time, Distel had been acquired by Heineken. My corporate finance background and, my M&A corporate finance background certainly assisted the trust in negotiating and structuring their position in the transaction.
Right.
Which resulted in a significant enhancement to our balance sheet. So, we went from, I think, 300 and odd million on our balance sheet to now close on to 6 6.5, 7 billion rand in the
That
space of 5 years.
That is impressive. In 5 years.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
And, a significant portion of liquid assets or investable assets, which we unlocked out of the transaction.
Excuse the pun, right?
So, the trust distributes about 40 million rand a year to various beneficiaries, from rural communities, farming initiatives, to, entrepreneurs that are starting businesses in rural areas. We do a lot of work in maths and science and education. And the mandate of the trust has really evolved over the course of my involvement, certainly. Initially, it was focused on education and making sure that we produced literate children, that we tried to have a positive impact on fetal alcohol syndrome, the sins of the industry that we are invested in.
Yeah, and also in space, specifically considering South Africa, it's also a legacy of apartheid, because people were paid with liquor. And so I remember long ago, I don't know if it's still the case, and I really hope it's not longer the case, but South Africa was way up there. I think it was #1 with the highest fetal alcohol syndrome. And so that you're addressing that specifically and being in the business, it's responsible business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it gives me tremendous personal satisfaction.
Yeah.
That one is having a significant impact. One of
Yes.
our projects is a farm called Middelbos, which is a land restitution project. There are 23 families
23.
that are benefiting from our investment, and not only ours, there are other corporates that we've now brought into this project. And, they produce a 5-star red wine, one of the best Shirazes in the country.
Oh, I like Shiraz, hint, hint.
They produce olive oil now. They're producing jams. They have a sewing class. And, one of the stories which really tugs at my heartstrings, because I read the reports from the projects, is a woman that, describes being beaten by her partner. And she said for the first time in her life, she had the courage to kick him out. And she said that, had it not been for the work that the trust does in that community,
Right.
that empowered her to have the ability to earn, because she sews, and she's earning her own income, she would never have kicked him out and put an end to the cycle of gender-based violence. And she said to me that it would take her 2 weeks to recover from her wounds, but she was going back stronger and more determined, and that she was going to teach her kids that it is possible to break this cycle of violence and gender-based violence, And when I read that story, it still brings tears to my eyes, I can tell you that. But it also gives me the confidence to believe that we're making a difference in one woman's life.
Yes.
If I've achieved that in
then
my
it's
life,
worth it.
I've achieved a lot more than most people have.
And it's generational, because as you said, she wanted her children to see that it's possible to break away from this cycle. And so by her courage, she begins to be the first person to step away.
That's right.
And then her children keep moving forward. And, whether it's a boy child or a girl child, they learn that that is not the way to do life. These are the consequences of it, and it's not the way to do life. And one person at a time, it's what really counts. So with Makwande Trust, it's like women and youth. So how young, is it the youth, the South African youth until 35? Or is it a global?
So we have a broad definition of youth.
Okay.
Youth generally tends to be early childhood development interventions, projects in the Eastern Cape, where, it started as a community farming project.
Okay.
They now produce 6 million rand of turnover from selling fruit and vegetables to local spas and so forth in that area.
But these are incredible numbers that you're saying.
And they feed 4 of their community, and 4 surrounding communities are fed from this farm, okay? Which started out literally as a community patch where people would come and plant furniture and so forth. So and that's what we're proud of, right? It's the evolution of something which is as simple as starting, and Middle Coast was the same, starting by feeding your immediate community and then spreading that to other communities, and whatever's left over, you sell it. And so that you can use those proceeds to buy more seeds and different seeds and actually implement and so forth and do small-scale commercial farming.
But how come we don't know this? Because when we think of the South African situation, and I'll be very specific, to my experience, we hear a lot of what's not being done. Why is it that we're not hearing about these wins? Because it's like a tipping point where people, when they hear some things often enough, it begins to be the way people believe things can happen, and then it tips over.
And I think I blame the media largely for this, quite frankly, right? Because I do believe that we have many, many, many positive stories to tell. I think that the media is so obsessed with all the negative things that the thing that sells newspapers or news these days is actually all the terrible things that we see flighted on our TV screens and so forth. And I think actually there is a space, in my opinion, for the good stories. And there are many good stories. But that Social Justice Awards evening, right?
Yes.
When I looked at the recipients of those awards,
exactly,
the impact and the work that these are ordinary people.
Yes.
These are not, the Thuli Vadonselas of the world, right? They're ordinary people doing extraordinary things and having such a significant impact on ordinary people in our country. And I think there are many, many, many stories out there.
And just to clarify, Professor Thuli Modonsela, she's head of department at Stellenbosch, the social justice department. And so this evening was curated by her team. But then to your point, we tend to look at them and say, oh, look what this person is doing.
Yes.
And we forget about the foot soldiers who are doing everything in the community. And I really celebrate what was happening. And I walked up to her and I said, this is so wonderful what you're doing. You are celebrating people who never get seen.
And I think it's the recognition, I think, that these people, they're not doing it for the recognition.
Yeah.
I think it's giving them the recognition that
Yes.
allows them to grow their confidence to
Yes.
say, actually,
Yes.
they make a difference. And that difference is recognized, right? And I think that's what we need to celebrate far more of.
Absolutely. They were all very humble, and you could see it was genuine. It wasn't like for the sake of the cameras. It was genuine humility. They enjoy what they're doing. Somebody's retired, somebody has a day job, somebody's still in university, that sort of thing. So it wasn't a look at me moment. It was, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And they would all say, but it's not just me. There are other people who work with me. And so they were willing to share the accolade. Now, fast forward, or at least concurrently, somewhere
Yes.
along the line, they shoot for purpose.
It's a turning point in many respects in my life. One of many turning points. And, Connie Richards invited me to this walk. And I had no expectations or understanding of what this was about. And I arrived, it was in the Boerkaap, and, there was this bunch of women. And he was handing out cameras, and, we walked through the Boerkaap. And I remember there was this one image which I took on that day, which was this window pane, which had a reflection of me in this pane, and beyond the pane you could see the kind of cupboard open and something on top of the cupboard. And I remember this moment because in many respects that moment was kind of a self-reflection, right? It was a way of looking at yourself, but also through yourself and with yourself, which was kind of a strange, eerie moment. And then we carried on the walk, and these women were having so much fun, and they had built this confidence to be able to walk up to strangers and to ask them to take photos and so forth. And at the end of the session, they did what we call a debrief. And people would talk about their week, or people would talk about how they were feeling, and what was happening in their lives. And, one realizes that despite our own challenges, personal, emotional, and so forth,
Yes.
that actually we all are facing trauma or have faced trauma in some way, form, or another. And that actually we're no longer alone. And I felt that moment when listening to these women and the impact that this walk, a simple walk with a camera, was having on their lives. And I've never left. So I said to them, I'll be back next week. Despite not being invited next week, I felt this connection. I felt this was the initiative where I could have such a profound personal impact on women that have been through some of the most horrendous trauma one could imagine. And would emerge out of this being seen and seeing the world differently. I think, Ruth, there's something really special about when you put your eye behind the lens.
Right.
Momentarily, you block out all the noise, everything that's happening in your life. You focus on the light, the subject, the moment, capturing that moment. And I think in capturing that moment, you start this process of healing yourself. And then your confidence grows. In the first week, it's a 5-week street photography initiative, Shoot for Purpose. And in week 1, these women come and they have low expectations or no expectations like I had of what this is and how this was going to heal them. And they can't even, barely talk to each other because you're in a group of strangers, right? And week 5, they're walking up to complete strangers, asking them, to take photos of them in the street. Homeless people or, tourists. It doesn't matter,
Because just for context, but the Bo-Kaap is it's a tourist magnet in the heart of Cape Town because it has the Cape Malay homes.
Yes.
And they're painted pink and blue and orange. And so if anybody comes to Cape Town, that's where they go. And so now they're in this very touristic, it's a home for people, but it's also quite commercial in that respect. And they've developed this boldness to feel it so at home.
Yeah. And the confidence, right? To walk up to a complete stranger and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing.
Yes.
Do you mind if I take your photo?
Yes.
And that engagement creates a connection.
Right.
And I think it builds their confidence to say, actually, they matter. That they are looking at the world differently. And that, and so one of the stories in one of the codes, one of the ladies says, she was hijacked, raped, and left for dead on the side of the road more than 20 years ago. And she had only told the story to 2 people.
In 20 years?
In 20 years. Not her husband, not her kids, not her parents, not her siblings. Nobody else knew what she had gone through.
In that close-knit circle, no one knew.
Her imam knew and her therapist knew. And she said at the end of 5 weeks, in a room of complete strangers, she felt confident enough to tell her story. That tells me that we've created a safe space, a space of trust, a community of belonging, that enables people, that empowers women to feel confident enough to share that level of deep trauma, that it unburdens them, that it lifts this burden. And she said in the first week, she had no idea how this was going to change her. By week 5, she said after this happened, she had lost her ability to smile.
Oh, yes, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And she said by week 2, she had regained her smile. Now, when you hear a story like that, the profoundness of the impact that one has on one individual is unimaginable. And if I can have that impact on just one person, I think I would have lived a very fulfilled life.
We always hear, just do something. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Whatever you do is going to count, and we think, yeah, but who am I and everything. And here it's just a camera in someone's hand And it's not like a traditional form of therapy, at least I don't know it to be. And even though I'm not an expert. And wow.
And so, Shoot for Purpose is, like I said, has had such a profound impact.
Yes.
It came at a time when I was going, and I'm still going through a bit of divorce.
Oh.
And, it's changed my perspective
Yeah.
of my own challenges and my own trauma, to the extent where it's if I can have a positive impact on other people's lives, other women's lives in particular.
Yeah.
I think it gives me a purpose. It gives me something that I think is worth living for and fighting for.
And it can't help changing how you see things, isn't it? I mean, whether it's something you're going through, you get back into your car and say, hold on a minute.
What I'm going through pales in comparison to the trauma that these women endure, day in, day out, decades later, right? And so I think it also heals me as much as I'm healing and contributing to the healing of others. And that's the beauty of this project, right? It's in many respects. I mean, there are homeless people. The other day we did a walk in Observatory, and the Central Improvement District in Observatory has hired a number of unemployed people to clean the streets and to keep the area clean.
Mm.
And I walked up to Casper, one of the people that are employed by the City Improvement District, and I said to him, this is who I am, this is what Shoot for Purpose is all about. We're a street photography initiative. And I said to him, do you mind if I take your photo? And he initially was a bit trepidatious about this, what is this? And I said to him, you can smile, And I think in that moment of relaxation, this smile appears, right? And I captured that moment. And I said to him afterwards, I said, if you have a cell phone number, I will share these photos with you, right? And I did. And he came back to me and he said, nobody's been able, he's never ever been captured like that. And there's this authenticity of an exchange of humanity, in those moments, which reignites this passion to say, actually, I think we can change the world.
It's because I think all of us need to be seen. All of us need to be heard. And so when I think of how you stumbled, you didn't stumble on it. I take that back. How you became involved with Shoot for Purpose. The person who invited you knew you loved photography. And where did that love come from? How did it all start?
That's a very interesting story, Ruth. So I think it was about 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
And I'm going on a school trip
to
the Kruger National Park.
Right.
My first trip to the Kruger National Park. And my dad, my late father, hands me a camera. And it's a 35mm film camera. One spool. And he shows me the basics of, how to take.
These are the days of where you cannot delete and take again.
Exactly. And so I take this camera to the Kruger National Park. And looking back now, thinking about it actually as we're sitting here, I think I would have taken very pedestrian photographs, but I was excited. And then coming back and having to work quite a few months to save up enough money to print, to pay for the developing and printing of the spool.
So you were given the camera, but Daddy wasn't going to pay for it.
You find your own way, you pay your own way.
I think that's good because he's showing you the whole process. If you like this so much, this is the process.
Yes, and it comes at a cost. Right?
It comes at a cost.
Sacrifice that you've got to make. I could have been eating sweets, but actually I chose to pray for the development.
Important life lessons, Right there.
Absolutely. And, when I got the spool back from the developing, or the negatives back, there wasn't a single photograph. I had obviously opened it or done something which overexposed the entire spool.
The entire spool.
Which I was absolutely horrified that, I didn't have a single memory of this, my first encounter in the Kruger National Park.
I feel for you, honestly, I do.
But I think it taught me an important lesson.
Okay.
that I endured and continued to develop this passion. And my father told me, at the time, that actually, if you want to take photos, you need to learn how to do it properly. So if you want to invest the time, I will teach you. And so my father was a very early inspiration in my photographic journey.
Interesting.
Later on, my uncle, I call him my deputy father, when my father passed away.
I see.
And so my deputy father was my uncle, Diraj Lal Kasunji, really was the other driving force and inspiration behind my photography journey. It was the transition from analog into digital. I bought my first digital camera in 2004. It was a boys' trip to Malaysia. It was myself and my best friend, and would later become my business partner in a travel agency, Sailesh. And, Rakesh, Sailesh and myself end up in Malaysia at the Formula One Grand Prix.
Oh my goodness, you started big, eh?
I did. And I had this new digital camera, Minolta, and I was trying to take photos of a speeding F1 car.
How did that go?
I didn't get a single car. I got a lot of black car, but not a single car.
Not even the blur.
Not even a blur. Years later, I went back to a Grand Prix, and I had taken some really amazing photographs. If only I do say so myself. But you learn the techniques. It's panning. You got to have the right equipment, and so I've progressively learned through failure.
It's a life lesson also that you got from your dad, that this is what you need to do, this is the cost that it will take, and so you've made the investment of time and equipment and creating experiences that allow you to test both.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Makwande Trust, Youth and Women, right, which you were invited to.
Yes.
Shoot for Purpose, Women, which you were invited to.
Yeah.
But they all speak to the person that you are.
I think fundamentally it does. I think that, having grown up in an era of this, and in an era where we thought the struggle gets apartheid.
Yes.
And having been a student leader.
Yes.
Following very much to my parents' dismay in my brother's footsteps.
Another troublesome Lalu.
Absolutely. Trouble follows us, if you ask me.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
I think that, I was fortunate enough that it was baked into my DNA. That, where you can help others, you help. And, where you can empower others, we have an obligation to empower others. And I think that certainly carries through in all the work that I do. Whether it's Blacklight, or whether it's Makwande Empowerment Trust, or whether it's Shoot for Purpose. I think it's just in my DNA. And if you speak to many of my friends, I think they would probably say the same thing.
And they know you well.
Yes.
They know you well, and because of that, you're able to live your most authentic self, version of who you are, and that kind of reverberates with all the different things that you do. So even to be invited by, formerly Distel, now Heineken, to do what you're doing, it's because, people talk and they say, I think I've got the person for you, and then you get that phone call.
Yes.
And to me, I find there is so much value in being your most authentic self. And you will find your tribe, is what I tell myself, and you will be comfortable there. And then you will be able to do meaningful work that inevitably is going to help you. It's going to heal you, promote you, make you shine, make you happy, whatever, but make you feel more fulfilled and life more joyful.
And I think that's the most profound statement you just made there. It makes you feel fulfilled, right? That in my earlier career, I was chasing the title and the salary and the recognition and and I now sit back in life and look at it and actually say, all you need are some very basic things. A roof over your head, a passion, hobby, something that gives you purpose. And you just need to live a good life, be a good human being.
Be a good human being. I think what I'm learning also from my children is they're very, they obviously want to have comforts in life. And so for that, you do have to do the 9 yards and everything. But they're not nearly as driven, to do those crazy long hours we used to do in corporate, that you look back in your life and you're like, whoa, where did my life go?
Yes.
They want a lot more balance. The younger millennials and the Gen Zs are looking at what I'm doing. How does it positively impact the environment? How does it positively impact my immediate and global community? How does it impact me? How do I feel about it? And sometimes, somebody might say there's too much leaning on feeling, and so it can affect commitment because it can bring fickleness, but the greater majority of them do see the need for the balance. And this journey that you've had of getting to know the tools of photography better have taken you towards publishing a book.
So before we go to the book, last year,
Yeah.
I decided
Yes.
that I would subject my photography to judgment.
Okay.
Which is a very
Yes.
difficult choice to make as an artist.
Moments of vulnerability.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I dealt with both rejection and, celebrating acceptance.
Right.
And it's been a real journey, so, and I characterize it as a journey of success.
Okay.
Because I've
That's
had
good.
2 exhibitions in the US.
What?
I've had 2 exhibitions in the UK and an exhibition in Italy.
You've had exhibitions.
My photographs have been exhibited in galleries.
I like the way you just slip that in. You just like slowly moving the envelope across the table while we'll do this very surreptitious thing that we're doing here, corruption. No, I mean, if you had just said you were acknowledged in this community at home, but to have that international footprint of acknowledgement, we are celebrating Africa and things African, but it goes back to what you said earlier. There's no fairy dust in Silicon Valley. There's no magic in the water. It's not about how the sun, is caught in the horizon or the San Francisco bridge looks a certain way. It's nothing to do with that. That should make us feel that that's the only place that we can find our dreams if we are in, software and that related field. And to the same token, I think of your photography now and the gut-wrenching disappointment that you first felt at 12 or 11 years old, and how it's paid off monumentally.
In dividends that I could never imagine.
No, you couldn't have. And not because you don't have a vivid imagination. I just think it would have just been so far-fetched.
Yeah. Look, I think it's, and that gave me the confidence, I think, to produce this book. And the book is called The Mountain Divides. And it's been a 3 and a bit year journey of immersing myself in the Kaapse Kloopse community. So this is a tradition which actually has its roots back in slavery in colonial days in the Boer Kaap. And so there's this poignant kind of moment of shoot for purpose, Boer Kaap photo walk, serendipitously kind of moment of, purpose.
It's kismet.
It's exactly that.
Kismet.
It's exactly
Yeah, I can see it.
It's the stars aligning.
I'm telling you, this is not coincidence. It's you just have that path that you can see the arc.
Yeah.
You can see it there, and it's twinkling, and it's magical, and wow, you must sleep right today. Whatever happens, just sleep right and say, wow, thank you, because these things have really come together. So in 24 months,
Yep.
you've gotten the gumption to answer open calls, and because it's you, the universe has been benevolent and has said, you know what, Ajay, come.
Yeah.
Let's see your work in Germany.
And it's been absolutely an amazing journey.
Well done.
Absolutely an amazing
Well
journey.
done. I celebrate you.
And, you know, I would encourage many other people to just
I hope
be
so.
bold enough.
I hope so. I hope
You know,
that people can be.
I sit back now and I wonder, why did it take me so long, you know? That I never believed that I was good enough as a photographer. But until you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to know how good you actually are.
Yeah.
Despite all the positive feedback I was getting from people like Connie Richards and many others, right? About the quality of my photographs, and the eye that I developed, you know, and so forth. So it's been a phenomenal journey, and one that I've enjoyed thoroughly.
And did you have any exhibitions here in Cape Town, in South Africa?
I was involved in the Lens last year at the gorgeous George's Hotel.
Yes.
And that was also a curated exhibition.
Right.
And actually my photograph taken in Barrydale called Peekaboo was the official invitation. It was the photograph of the official invitation to the Lens exhibition.
Right.
Susan Proctor-Hume had arranged a photographic exhibition in Cape Town.
I love the name Peekaboo. You know, Wasafiri Africa is about celebrating African, things African. And because, as you said so earlier, it seems that we don't get celebrated enough, or we ourselves don't do that enough to change the narrative. And so I would like to be part of changing that narrative. The work that you have done, and we'll talk about the mountain divides, those images would resonate on the continent and would begin to reveal to the rest of the continent some stories that are completely unheard of here, from here. Yeah. So wait, Shoot for Purpose, it does not only happen in Cape Town.
At the moment, it only happens in Cape Town.
Okay.
We are looking to expand it, and we had requests to expand it across the country and across the continent, and in fact across the world.
Wonderful.
And it's an ambition of ours to do that.
Wonderful.
It requires finding the right people. You know, because you're dealing with women that are very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You have to find people that have the values of wanting to support, create a safe space, not judge, you know, and it's hard to find those types of people.
Yeah.
That you're entrusting your brand and your reputation with, that you know would be the same and have the same level of commitment and investment as all the volunteers of the board of Shoot for Purpose do. We're all volunteers. None of us gain anything financially or otherwise out of this initiative, other than
the soul.
altruistic.
Oh yes, the soul is definitely getting fed. A mountain divides.
3.5-year journey of photographing the Kaapse Kloopse. So let me tell you about the title of the book first, because I think it's an important. I lived on both sides of the mountain. I grew up in Athlone, you know, in the Cape Flats.
And this is Table Mountain.
Table Mountain, right? We all look at it, and we're sitting here.
I know, amazing.
The view is right here. But I think the mountain, as a metaphor, divides the city. If you think about the Kaapse Kloopse, they live in the Cape Flats. They prepare throughout the year the costumes, you know, the music, the marching bands, the marching sequences, and so forth. Right?
How would you explain the Kaapse Kloopse to someone who doesn't understand the genesis of the name?
So its roots are in slavery. The Tweede Nuwe Jaar, which is the second New Year, is the only day that enslaved labor was given a day off. And they would adorn themselves with often paint their faces, so that they could mock their slave owners without retribution. And I think it's evolved over the years, over the centuries actually, to a carnival which is a celebration of belonging. It's a reclamation. It's, you know, a community that was forcibly removed from District 6.
Right.
You know, that finds themselves on the Cape Flats.
Right.
That traverse the mountain and come back to the city, to its very roots, where it all started. The parade starts in District 6 and ends in Rose Street in Burkamp.
Yes.
and it parades through the city center with all these tourists and, locals watching the parade. More, I think, as a spectacle rather than understanding the true essence of what this parade is all about. Not understanding that historical context, not understanding the pain and the trauma of apartheid and forced removals, and how that has influenced this community and their pride in reclaiming their belonging in a city that is largely divided between the people that live on this side of the mountain and the wealth and experience that people have. And most tourists never venture to the other side of the mountain. They stay on this side of the mountain, the city center side of the mountain. And so I think that in many respects, this book is about how people reclaim their rightful presence in a city that divides using a geographical barrier called Table Mountain. But it's also, in many respects, breaking down this notion of black subjects in photography, often portrayed in what I call poverty porn. That we are subjects of despair.
Wow.
That we are subjects of destitution and it's often, I think, a misrepresentation that there are moments of happiness. I'm not saying that there isn't hardship. I'm not.
No. We recognize that, but there are moments of happiness. And also when you think about the fact that the second day of the year was the only day they had off, it was a moment of freedom. It was a moment of that very precious thing called freedom that people die for. So it's and they did it with music. They did it with brilliant colors. They did it with dance. And it's bands competing against each other in the midst of all this. So there's that seriousness, but in a playful setting. But the photography, stunning.
Thank you. And for me,
stunning.
I'm trying to change this narrative around poverty porn. That we actually need to capture moments of happiness. It's that story of Casper on the streets.
Yes.
Right? All of this, if we think about how we capture peekaboo, there's those moments of just happiness, joy.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to capture in every image.
And I think that does come through, and it's so engaging. Whether you're capturing when the costumes are being made, or whether you're capturing when they're getting ready and dressing up and painting their faces, or when they're actually in the motion of the dance and the band and the music. You do get that vibrant energy coming through. And I'm so excited because it's an ebook.
So there's three versions. There's a hardcover, there's a soft cover, and there's an ebook.
Okay.
And the sale or the proceeds out of the sale of the book all goes to Shoot for Purpose. And if we sell enough books, so this is my plug for people to buy.
Plug away, plug away.
Please buy the book. Right?
Yes.
Because we want to also create a bursary for a girl child from the Kloopse community, right, to go to university.
Right.
As a pathway out of poverty, right? So in the book, I follow the story of a young man called Logan Adams. And yet Logan has a fantastic story, Age of 9, he picks up a trumpet, and his father, Abba Adams, teaches him how to play the trumpet. He's now on a full scholarship studying jazz at UCT School of Music. And his ambitions are to play on some of the largest stages, New North Sea Jazz Festival and so forth. But he also wants to go do his master's at Berkeley, right? And so...
Well done to him. Dream away.
Here's a young man that lives in Elsie's River. I've been to his house, I met his mother, his brother, and so forth, right? An area of abject poverty in the Cape Flats. And he's found a pathway through the Kaapse Kloopse out of poverty. Through being educated and, being a brilliant musician, right? An exceptionally talented musician. And I think there are many stories like that I think that's the part of the behind the scenes
Right.
that most people don't understand about this parade. That, in Mitchell's Plain in Lentergeer, there's Suwaiba Alexander that runs what looks like a sweatshop in any other part of the world.
Yes.
10 women the whole year get paid to sew costumes for one of the troops.
For one of the troops.
One of the troops.
It takes them a year.
It takes them an entire year.
Yeah, but when you see how they turn out, I do try and attend it, And definitely in the first years, I always did when I moved to Cape Town, and the children would also join me, because it's a full outfit, eh?
Absolutely.
Full outfit from head to toe.
Yeah.
It's a full outfit.
And I think there's also, what we don't understand is there's so much that happens throughout the year. We only end up seeing it on the one day that the parade happens, right? But there's a year of planning and preparation that happens behind the scenes. So on a Sunday evening, I visited 2 of the troops, and they band practice Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock in Salt River and in Lentergeer, till 10, 11 o'clock at night. 150 to 200 people, full band instruments, practicing week in and week out. Now, the logistics to get everybody there, it's keeping them off the street.
I was thinking, what a wonderful way of keeping the kids out of the street, because there's some of them are very young. Some of them are very young, and you can see they're leading, doing some dancing, or maybe playing instruments, right to the oldest papa.
And every single one of them, Ruth, gets paid a stipend.
Really?
Which nobody knew. I didn't know about this.
No,
right? And so for me, Logan Adams gets paid 2,500 rand a month. So because he's the band leader.
That's
right?
Wonderful.
And so
that is why it's sustainable.
And that's for me. This is the part of the parade that I'm also trying to show in the book.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That there's so much that happens behind the scenes.
Right.
That I've had the privilege and the honor of witnessing and documenting through this book.
And we never hear this.
We never hear this, right? Suwaiba and her team of seamstresses, I mean, there were 3 generations in this little room in the back of this house in Lentergeer. Right?
Yes.
Isha Adams, her mother and her daughter. And she started last year by sweeping this. She was unemployed. She started sweeping and cleaning up, in the workshop. And now she's learned to sew, and she's a seamstress, right? And being paid every week for doing something which is a dignified living, right? And I think for me, that's the story of what I'm trying to capture, is the essence of this parade, right? But also that there's this kind of the key theme or the key question that I think the book asks is, who holds the aesthetic judgment? Is it the tourists and you and I that live on this side of the mountain that look at the spectacle and feel entertained? Or is it actually the people that are involved as Kloopse, that are painting their faces and saying and showing up with tremendous pride that actually the aesthetic freedom belongs to them, is the point that I want to make in this book. That they are not a spectacle, that they are coming into the city, into the most significant areas of our city, and reclaiming their rightful place, albeit for one day of the year. They are reclaiming their rightful place in this city that is divided by this mountain.
See, I didn't know all that. I knew it was the one day they were allowed off. Historically, the slaves were allowed off. But the layers that you're unpacking now make it so meaningful to me as someone coming from the outside. But I can also understand why it's endured. It's a moment of pride. It's a moment of celebration. But you say it's one day, and I'm thinking to myself, since they're practicing throughout the year, since they are making these uniforms that are going to be worn, there's a sense of holding, like almost like packaging that sense of joy, putting it somewhere and keeping it with them and drawing from it in little bits and pieces all the way until the next January when they refill the jar again, and it keeps them going, because life is not easy in the flats.
No, it's not.
With A Mountain Divides, you have the story of the Kaapse Kloopse, and then you have Shoot for Purpose also in the book. And this is the thing about your story so far, because it's still ongoing, is how the things tend to weave into each other. It's like a quilt, or maybe collage. Since you're in photography.
Yes.
What I like about it being also available as an ebook is because it's available to people who are not within our vicinity.
That's right.
And it's beautiful photography, and also because you carry the stories through, it's a coffee table book. So you read it and you admire the pictures, but you learn a lot.
And I think I'm trying to get that balance right between some historical factual context,
Right.
some social commentary,
Right.
but also some celebration of just what Cape Town and the essence of its people is all about.
And it brings me to a statement within the book on page 78, and it says, art should not only document the world, it should change it.
And I'm a firm believer in that, right? I'm a firm believer that we all have a finite time on this planet.
We do.
And that we need to change this world so that we leave it in a better place, in a better way. And that we can change and help others, right? If we can do that, then I think it's a life fulfilled and well lived.
100%. 100%. And we all have to do what we can do, whatever that is. Because ultimately, I love the idea of the bursary because once again, it becomes more than just a coffee table book. It becomes more than the stories. It creates a way out.
It's a pathway out of poverty.
It's a pathway out of poverty.
And I think it's breaking the kind of intergenerational trauma, right, of poverty. And if we can achieve that, this is the way in which we break the cycle of poverty. Not only in our country, I think in the continent as a whole.
Globally. And because on the continent, like what we were talking about with Shoot for Purpose, hopefully finding representation in different parts on the continent, not only, and so the world, this book can set a precedent of finding stories like this that have not been told, and then documenting them in a way that makes them visually exciting, but also informative, because I've learned a lot just from this conversation about why the whole festival is so important to the colored community. Yeah. So, when you're not photographing, do you listen to music?
I love music. I grew up in many a disco.
Okay, so let's narrow it down to African music from the continent, African music.
Look, a friend of mine who's actually visiting me now and staying with me in Cape Town, Pedro Hernando, gave me a CD, which is one of my favorite CDs.
Where's Pedro from?
He's from Spain.
Okay.
And we've become like brothers, right? So, a brother from another mother.
Well done.
And Pedro gave me the CD which he bought at the Rosebank Flea Market. It's Afro,
in Johannesburg.
In Johannesburg. It's Afro-Latin beats. It's this kind of combination, lounge music, kind of combination of African drum and kind of, Latin beats.
Right.
And it's such a unique kind of blend of, I think, two cultures that have roots in slavery again.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
There's this invisible thread that I think binds these communities in two different continents. But when you listen to this kind of harmonic medley of mixing of this genres.
Yeah.
It is something which I think is unique and special.
Yeah, a lot of the people, the slaves were taken from Angola, Congo, West Africa, Cameroon there, went to Brazil, and other parts of South America.
And so I think there's this intuitiveness that's in their DNA that spans centuries. And when you hear it
you recognize
in music, you can hear the harmony and how it gels and how it just belongs. It feels right.
Yes. You like this CD? Ajay, you like this CD? You play it often.
I do. It's on repeat. It's my favorites. It's Apple Music now listens to what I like and recommends other music. And
so what's the title of the CD?
It's actually called Afro Latin Beats.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I'm trying to get it on vinyl disc, which I've been searching for a long time, so I haven't found yet.
And do you have favorite foods from the continent that you...
Oh, without a doubt. Being a vegetarian, my favorite food from the continent is Ethiopian food, right?
Oh, really?
I just love this kind of...
I love Ethiopian food.
It's spicy, it's this kind of notion of sharing food, that...
It's very communal. Yes.
Right? And I think it takes me back to my own roots.
Yes,
right?
yes, it would, yeah.
Premier could have explained to you how many people lived under our roof, right? And I still have these vivid memories of sitting around a table with many people.
But what fun.
And sharing, right? And so that notion of sharing and it's not my dish, it's our dish.
It's our dish.
Have
you been to Addis in Cape? Addis in Cape is on Loop Street, but you've been to Addis Ababa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been to Addis and Cape.
You have?
I've been there many times.
Oh, okay. Other than Addis Ababa, because I know the food took you there. Which other country on the continent have you enjoyed visiting, or would you like to go to, and why?
I've visited many countries on the continent. But the place that draws me back time and time again is Namibia. And I think it is the most photogenic place on earth.
It's stunning. I've only been to Swakopmund and around there, but...
So I did actually with Pedro Hernando, we did Sossusvlei. And the dunes in Sossusvlei.
I went to Sossusvlei. How do you pronounce it?
Sossusvlei.
Sossusvlei.
Yeah.
Yes. It's beautiful. How could I forget that?
Photogenic place on earth.
Oh my gosh. And there's a camp there. I think it's Beyond Camp in Sossusvlei.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
I stayed at the Naukhof National Park. There's a camp in the Naukhof National Park.
Okay.
And again, it's this most majestic place, right?
Yes.
It's silent.
Yes.
It's...
Majestic is the word.
It's contrast, right? Because this was a riverbed that the sand dunes eventually cut off from reaching the sea, and then it dried out, and it's now bone dry. And those, trees are calcified and have been there for centuries.
It's stunning.
And this blue sky and red dunes and, desolate dry riverbeds which are beige in color, and there's the photography opportunities that provides. I haven't found many places in the world that can replicate that. Despite me traveling to many parts of the world.
You know how in Namibia, how they sell these bottles with the sand, with the colored sand.
Yes.
It just, for me, I did buy one because I thought to myself, after being to Sossusvlei and Swakopmund, I thought to myself, this is so true. You have these colors, the ochre, the orange, the beige, the cream, the black, and it's like, it's a tapestry. It's beautiful.
So Namibia would definitely be my favorite place on the continent.
So we should give you some Ethiopian food, put you on a flight, and get you to go to Sussex flight, and you'll be the happiest person
under the face of the sun.
I'm so happy. And I'm really happy that you took the time to be with me today. And I've just enjoyed this conversation, really. And I always learn so much. And to imagine that something you love so much as photography has brought so much color to your life, so much vibrant moments, and so much, such precious opportunities to make a difference to people's lives. I think anyone who has a dream just needs to be even more inspired. And if they're already inspired and doing it, then, the tribe is just getting bigger. And I just want to thank you so much, Ajay. Thank you so much, because you reminded me that art should not only document the world, it should change it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to coming back and talking about AI.
Yes, we're going to talk about AI next time, because that deserves a time slot all on its own. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruth.
Twendeni, Africa is ready.